Hey everybody. I'm my plan tonight was to come in and do a pour, and I'm going to do those, but I was I was videoing me talking about what I was going to do, and I got off on something. Next thing I know, it's 15 minutes later, and I was still talking, but I was way off on this other thing. And so I think I'm just going to post this. I'm gonna do this video and just post it. I'm not really going to paint on this video. I am going to paint after I get done with this, but what what I was what I had gotten off on that kind of made me think maybe I should just do a little video about myself and what has inspired me and how I got started in the fluid acrylics, and some neat things that happened, especially today. Something neat happened, which is the reason that I got off on it. But anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. But when I was a kid, I, like a lot of kids, I like to draw. I usually pencil, and I remember in grade school, and I am a little bit older. I know I don't look it by what people tell me, but I'll be 58 this year, so I'm 57 right now. So I went when I started kindergarten and first grade. It was 1969, 70. And then I graduated in 1982 in high school. So I was in grade school through the 70s, and into the high school in the late 70s and the early 80s. So, but I remember being in school and we didn't have art, but we did have to do, fall things we did. We would color, and we would get these sheets that had just an outline of whatever. But I remember loved coloring them, and I was pretty good at a point to where I wouldn't get, I was way out of the lines, kind of like, your coloring book. And I remember specifically there was this house. It was an old house, and it seems like I was using colored pencils more than crayons at the time, I think, on this particular one. But I vividly remember how well I enjoyed that and how well it turned out, really, for me. And I remember I just loved it. But I drew a lot of things. I had a wild imagination. Probably back then, we did have TV back then, but no internet, and a lot of times there wasn't anything really on TV, especially when you're younger, that you really want to watch. We had 4 channels. You had ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS. That was it where we lived. I lived in a very small town in Kansas, and there was nothing to do there. So you had to have a pretty good imagination and amuse yourself. So I drew a lot. I played with a lot of things, but I drew a lot. And so my mind was filled with a lot of fantasy type stuff. But I remember drawing a lot of cars. Maybe why I liked doing the Hot Wheels ones. I had a collection of Hot Wheels already. I got that for, because I think they came out in 67, 68, maybe around there. So I remember I was 5 around the time they came out. So I got those for Christmas and birthday gifts and stuff. And so I really loved them, and I loved playing with them. I banged them up pretty good. I wish I had some of those still today, because there were some stuff. But anyway, so I drew a lot of cars. I loved the flames on them. And I drew some other kind of interesting stuff. And of course, the older I got, the better I got at drawing. And I have a cousin that, it runs in our family, but I have a cousin that was just phenomenal artist. Well, he still is. And but he did some pen and ink drawings that were just, I was just amazed at. And he did a couple for me that I still have to this day. And they're just, to me, they're just amazing. So I still did it myself. I was never nearly as good as him, but so I was doing a lot of that, drawings and stuff. And of course I had the wild imagination. I remember doing kind of like heads, faces, but they were like on their side, from their side view. And then I would have little dudes like working on him, and his mouth would be open. There'd be a guy standing his mouth. They'd have cranes coming off. They'd have all sorts of, like scaffolding, and like they were working on his face or whatever. I don't know really what I was thinking, but I did quite a number of those. So that's a little off the wall, weird. And I did a few for school, like in high school. That there was one in particular I remember doing in high school, and the teacher wouldn't give it back to me at the end of the year. She wanted to keep it in my file because I did it for extra credit. I was a freshman in high school, and I wanted it back, and she wouldn't give it back to me. So, I was a moody teenager, and I was mad at her for years for not giving it back to me. And I'm probably still a little bit upset about it. But I remember we read this book called Animal Farm, and I don't know if you've read it or not, but what I remember is the animals take over this farm, and there was this, of course, they're talking animals, and there's this pig that kind of is the leader, and then he becomes like a dictator and just takes over, and he's, a mess. A tyrant, I guess, if I remember right. But for extra credit, I drew a picture from this book, at least what something I got out of the book. And so I drew a pig on a balcony with a Nazi uniform on, had the flag over the front railing with the Nazi symbol on it, the swastika. He had the little Hitler mustache, he was Heil Hitler stuff. And so she really liked it. She gave me extra credit for it, but she probably kept it for herself. It's probably what she did. That's why she didn't want to give it back to me. She didn't keep it in my file. But anyway, so, and then I remember in church, because we attended church when I was growing up, and our church had little notepads, almost like oh geez, I can't even think what they're called, but like recipe cards or something about that size. They were blank. And of course, as kids, we didn't really pay close attention to the sermons and stuff, so we were writing notes back and forth where I was drawing. We played games. We had this dot game. I don't know, it's a long time ago. But I remember one in particular in drawing there was, and I don't know where I came up with it, but I don't think I still have it. It's probably got thrown away over the years. But I drew an ant. He was standing up like a human, and he had a general's uniform on, had the hat, the military hat on. He had sunglasses on. He had the corncob pipe, and of course, I dubbed it General McAnther. So that was some of the things that I did as a kid, drawings. And then I had collected comic books I had a friend of mine that gave me a couple comic books when I was about 12. And so I was into a few comics, and he was too. And so we started kind of collecting them. And then we used to drive to Wichita when we got I think we were about 19, 20, early 20s. We would drive to Wichita once a month and go to this comic book store because we didn't have comics in our little town. And Wichita was about, I don't know, 75 miles away. So we had to drive a good ways to get to mall or anything really, besides like a Walmart or an Alco or something like that. Dodge City was about 50 miles the other way, but we would go to Wichita, which is a fairly good sized city for us. And we would go to Prairie Dog Comics there in Wichita every month, and we would buy comics, and we got to know the owner, and he actually kept boxes back for his special customers, which evidently we became special customers because we were there once a month and bought a number of comics from him. But he would write down which comic book series we would like, or the comics we would like, and he would throw them when they come in. He would take them out and put one in our box for, like, my friend Jeff that got me started in it, and him and I would go up there. He liked Conan the Barbarian. That was one of them that he collected, and so he would get every new issue of Conan he would throw in that box. And so I started drawing scenes from comics, and so I did quite a number of them, and I still have some of them. And so one of them I did, actually two of them I did a Conan the Barbarian one for my friend Jeff, and I also did another one from a comic called Dalgota. Now this specific comic only had 8 issues in it, and the 8 issues, I don't know if it was intended to be a mini series or if that's just how many they did and it wasn't going over well, but both of us liked them. And it was basically a half man, half dog type thing. He was like, and it was a space one, but so basically he had a dog head and he was like a human. The rest, I'm sure he had fur on it, but most of the time he had a spacesuit on and stuff. But I did a picture in the middle of Dalgota, and then I took a scene from each comic, each issue, and drew one scene around it, like a collage. And so Jeff was a big fan of that, so I gave him that, and I gave him the Conan one. And unfortunately, this past August, and this is May, but last August, my friend Jeff passed away unexpectedly. His family they're like my second family. His folks are like a second set of parents. I spent a lot of time with them. I spent a couple summers with them while my folks were out of town. His brother was in my class. We graduated together. And like I said, it's a small town, and Jeff was a grade above us, but we had 15 kids in my class, my graduating class. So 68 in the whole high school. So you knew everybody, and you probably went to school with most of them your whole life. So we were pretty close, and Jeff and I spent a lot of time together. I think back on it now, because I think about him when I hear certain songs on the radio, and it's amazing how many songs remind me of Jeff. And so I kind of got thinking about it, and I think he had a pretty big influence on me on some of the music that I listened to. We went to concerts together. There's some really good concerts or some dud concerts we went to. I remember he introduced me to Night Ranger when they first came out. I had never heard of them before. He didn't introduce me to Queen, but he played a lot of Queen. So my love for the band Queen, I have a lot of fond memories of songs that Queen performed that Jeff and I played. And the biggest one was not really a hit of theirs, but it was Tie Your Mother Down. Every time I hear that song, I can see him doing the drums, the air drums. And so, we went and saw Night Ranger up at Fort Hays State University, up in Hays, Kansas. I know him and I went and saw Hall & Oates. I always loved Hall & Oates. We went and saw Huey Lewis and the News. What was special about that one, though, was Stevie Ray Vaughan opened for him. So we got to see him perform. And we went to some other concerts over the years. So he kind of got me in the love of that. But what I was going with that was, where I was going with that was, he just passed away. I know hasn't been quite a year yet, but it's still tough. And it's still fairly fresh to me. And of course his birthday was just the other day. So, his wife and his girls and his folks posting stuff online. And so it's still pretty fresh, but, his wife sent me those two pictures back. I got a package from her in the mail a couple months after he passed, and he still had them, and she said I was going through his stuff, and I saw these, and I figured you'd want them, and it just, I'd kind of forgotten about the Conan one. I actually have another Conan one, and I thought that was the one I gave him, but I gave him a different one, and so I kind of forgotten about it. I did remember the Dalgota one, but so now I have those back, and so that was part of a series I did of comics, and then I did start painting a little bit more. I did my first oil painting at the age of 10. In high school, I did some oil painting. My mom is an artist. She's the one that actually taught me how to oil paint, and she actually taught a night course painting class at the college that we had there where I grew up. And so I was in high school, and I would sit in on it. I would just go up and sit there. And so I had to borrow canvases. I borrowed canvases from her. I had to borrow her brushes and her paints and stuff, but I just sat in on the class and painted. And I guess that's the privilege of being the teacher's son. Of course, I didn't pay for the course, but I just sat in on it. And then later on, I painted a few here and there, and but it was probably about 10 years ago I started wanting to paint again, and so I needed her to help me. She still had all the paints. I had no oil paints at all, and so I bought some canvases. She had all the brushes, so I would go over to their apartment, and we would sit there and paint together, and she would go over all the stuff, and she'd guide me and really help me with my painting. And so I started doing that, and I was just giving the majority of these paintings away. I wasn't selling them. I was just doing them for people that I loved, that were family and were close friends. And I actually did one for Jeff that he got a couple years before he died. I was able to get it to him. He still lived in Kansas. And there was a night when we were teenagers that I was spending the summer with him. And so it was about 2 a.m, and I think I was sleeping on the floor and he was in the bed, or vice versa, I don't know. But neither one of us were asleep, but neither one of us knew the other one was not asleep, that we were awake. And so somehow one of us just said, are you still awake? And we're like, yeah. And we just kind of both almost at the same time said, hey, you want to go for a bike ride? So we hopped on our bikes and we took off outside of town, out north of town, which Kansas is just flat. There's not that many trees. It's mostly farmland around there, so it's just, and it was in the summertime, and usually it's wheat, so it's not real tall crops. But we went out, I don't know how many miles, 4, 5, 6 miles, and the moon was, I don't know if it was a full moon or not, but it was bright enough out that, it didn't really seem that dark out there. And of course there's no cars, there's no traffic, because it's basically out in the country. And it wasn't on a main thoroughfare or a highway or anything. It was just a county road, I guess you could say. And so this was probably 1980, right around there. So there wasn't a lot of traffic, and so we took off. We went 3 or 4 or 5 miles out and turned around and came back and then went to bed. But over the years, we had always talked about it, remembered it, brought it up. Hey, you remember that time, and it was always a great memory for us. And so I painted a scene of a road, flat, a bright moon, and 2 guys on 10-speed bicycles. He was blonde. I had dark brown hair. And so one was blonde, one was brown hair. And the sad thing is that I was not able to give it to him personally. I had gone out to Kansas to visit. I was staying with another, great buddy of mine. And who actually, kind of a neat story is that Bob, my friend I was staying with, him and his wife, they bought a house there in Haviland. That's the town I grew up in Kansas. They bought a house from Jeff. And Jeff owned that house. So I have some memories in that house with Jeff. Stories for another time. And those 2 guys, Bob and Jeff, I'm not going to tell you, but right now, but I've had 2 blind dates in my life that were both disasters. And one was Bob set me up on, and one Jeff set me up on. So, and Jeff was living in this house when he set me up on this one day. Let's just say the girl was the sister of the girl he was dating, and he didn't tell me, but she was married. And the husband showed up on the date. Anyway, so and well, not to get into it, but Bob's set me up with I was 20 at the time, and Bob set me up with a girl that was 15, a friend of his girlfriend who was 18, and he's a little bit older than me, a couple months older than me. So my 2 blind dates were a married woman and an underage teenager girl. So, but anyway, so I'm staying with Bob, and Jeff was supposed to come over, and something came up and he couldn't make it over there. And I didn't have time to go over to where he lived, which was about an hour and a half away. And he was going to be coming through, but he didn't. So I left the painting there with Bob, and I told Jeff that I left it there for him because I had to come back home. And whenever the next time he came through Haviland to, he could stop by and pick it up. And I told him what it was. And because I wanted to share that memory with him in my way. And it was kind of my way, even though I'm not very good at saying like, I love you, man, or especially to another dude, I'm the old fashioned guy. even though I have told some of my very close friends, male friends, that I love them, it's tough for me. It's tough for me to say that to a lot of people. And so I think what I do is a lot of ways that I show my love for people is to do something like this for them. So like painting a picture and giving it to him, and it was a memory of him and I. And so the reason I was disappointed not giving it to him is to see the reaction from him of seeing it for the first time. And so I really didn't want to tell him over the phone what it was a painting of. I told him I did a painting for him, but that was as close as I was going to get to getting any type of expression of what it was, and to hear his voice and the excitement in his voice, and was about the best I could do for the situation. And I didn't want to mail it to him, you know. So, but anyway, he loved it. He hung it up. From what he told me, he hung it up in his office. He worked at he was a grain seller at a like a co-op type place where they, you know, have the silos and they sell grain and stuff that the farmers bring in. And he would tell people the story. He'd just tell everybody he was a talker. Now, talking about a talker, he was a talker. And so I truly, truly do miss him, and I'm glad I was able to get him that. Excuse me. I was glad I was able to get him that painting before he passed on. Of course, we had no clue that he was going to pass. It was a pulmonary embolism that his wife found him in the bed, and they got him to the hospital, but he passed away. And so. That was a special moment for me to get him that painting, and a part of me would like to have that painting back, but there's no way I'm going to ask his wife for it. I was shocked when she sent me the 2 drawings that I did for him. So there's no way I'm going to ask her if I could have that painting, because I'm just not going to do that. But anyway, so that's part of my story of some paintings and how I kind of got started. Now, the fluid acrylic, which I haven't even gotten into yet, was part of me was I felt like I was using my mom as a crutch for oil painting, that I couldn't do it on my own, that I couldn't without her being right there and kind of guiding me along. Even though I did some nice paintings, I just felt that it wasn't really totally all my work. It was kind of like our work. And sometimes when I did sell a few paintings, but sometimes when I did sell some stuff, I wanted to give her money, half the money, because I felt she did half the work, even though I was painting. And excuse me. And so, but she never would take it. And because I did a couple of 4-foot saws I painted on for a couple of guys, and she really helped me on those and getting everything right. And so they brought me the saw, so I just did the painting, but I wanted to give her half the money, and she just wouldn't take it. So when I found fluid acrylics, I was actually at work, and there was a gal that I always showed my artwork to on my phone, you know, and I would show her, and she always liked it. Well, she said one day, she's like, "Hey, there's this other guy where we work that does paints too, but he does something with chemicals. He puts chemicals in it." She goes, "I don't know what it's called, but she pulled it up on her phone and went to his Facebook page and showed me some of his work. And I was just like, oh, that is so awesome, because I hadn't seen it online at all. And so I was like, that is awesome. But she didn't know what it was called. I didn't know this guy at the time. I do know him now because we've definitely talked quite a bit about fluid acrylic paintings. So I went home and started just searching chemicals and paint. Finally found out about the fluid acrylics or pour acrylics or whatever it was called at the time. And of course the chemicals was the silicone and everything. So I started watching YouTube and just was like, oh, this looks so awesome. And so I was like, I think I can do this. I was talking to my wife. I had some acrylic paints because I had bought some acrylic paints to try to paint with, and they're so different from oils and they dry so much faster. And I don't know if I was doing it right, but it seemed like a lot of times when I'm trying to cover, if I'm doing sky and I'm going across with blues, by the time I get to the other end of the canvas, the paint has dried so much it's not even really taking the paint on and covering the canvas. So I was like really frustrated with it. So I had all these colors of acrylic paints just sitting there, not doing it, and I wasn't going to paint with them anymore. I was like, and I didn't throw them away because it's paint. So I finally researched, watched, found out how to mix it, what people were using, which most of the people that I think at the time all the people I were watching were fluid acrylic artists, or excuse me, it's getting late. They mix their fluid acrylics with Floetrol, and so they use Floetrol. So I went and found Floetrol. So I bought me a bottle. It was just the liter or whatever, or the small bottle of Floetrol, because I didn't want to buy a big bottle of it because I didn't know if I was going to just do this one painting and quit, or if I liked it, or what would happen. So I remember getting a cardboard box. I put 4 solo cups in the box. We put, I think we put a garbage bag in and put the 4 solo cups on it. I had an 8x10 canvas. I set it on the cups, and I got the little cups and I poured everything in. I mixed them just like I did. Did the thing. I added silicone to it. I did exactly what those guys on the YouTube channels showed you how to do. And I poured my first one, which if you're on my channel watching this right now, I think it's the very first video that I posted. It's only like 2 minutes long because it's just the pour and me moving it around. So you can actually see the very first one I did. And I just thought, well, I'll just jump in and do it. So I had my wife stand there and film me because I wanted to take a video of the first one I did for whatever reason. I thought this might be cool. And when I poured that, it was kind of like love at first sight. It was just amazing. I loved all the colors that was in it because I put a lot of different colors in, probably way more than usually what I do on any paintings anymore. And I kind of poured it back and forth and then ran it off, and just loved how it looked. I loved doing it. I loved just the way it turned out. I just, everything about it I just loved, and was hooked at that point on my very first pour. And so the second one I did was probably one of the worst ones I've ever done. Was the second one I did, and I didn't even run it all off the canvas. There was parts of the canvas that didn't even have paint on it. and I think I've painted over it, but they just got better, 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 and better. But that second one was probably the worst one, and I've had some over the years that haven't turned out real well at all, but the majority of them are at least halfway decent, and there's a number of them that are really, to me, they're really just great. I have some that I won't sell, and they're hanging up in the other room. This is my studio, and I just pound a little nail in and hang stuff up all over the place. And I'm not like my wife where he has to be level and everything has to go. I just put up where I got room. And so that was my start off on fluid acrylics. That's kind of my journey through my art. And then I was doing art. I was doing these paintings, and like I said, I had a cardboard box on the countertop in the kitchen. Now, I knew that wasn't going to last long because my wife was going to get tired of me being there. So I kind of got kicked to, we actually had 2 dining room tables. One was my wife's kind of formal dining area, and then we had my old kitchen table, which is actually the table I use now for my painting, and it was kind of down in the other part of the kitchen. It wasn't really a breakfast nook, but that's where we had it. So I moved over there. So I threw a plastic over the table and started painting there. And then I got a cardboard table, card table, not a cardboard table, a card table set over there. And so I had some little extra room. And so I was buying these little bottles of Floetrol. I started going through them. And then that's when I realized that, because they were like just under $7 for one of those. It was a quart, that's what it was. I know I'd think of it sooner or later. And then I found the gallon. It was like $13. So if I remember right from my schooling, 4 quarts in a gallon, I was spending twice as much or more for these little ones. So I started buying the gallons. I've never bought a quart one since then. But so I started painting every day, and I was doing mostly 8x10s, almost exclusively 8x10s, because the canvases are cheap. I can buy a 10-pack for $10 at Hobby Lobby. So I was buying 10 packs of 8x10, so $1 a piece. So I would paint a couple of them every day. And I did that for 4 or 5 months. So I had, do the math. I had a ton of paintings. So I'm trying to find a place to put them. And so we had a little desk area in the kitchen. So I started piling them there. We didn't really use the desk. So I started piling them there. And that's about the time my wife said, you have a problem. You need to either stop painting or sell them. And I was like, I can't stop painting. I'm not going to stop painting. And so that's when I started selling them. And I sold a couple here and there to some people that I worked with. I post them on Facebook. They were getting a lot of likes at first. Now most of my friends on Facebook hardly ever like them. They're probably like, oh geez, he painted another one. It looks just like the last one. I ain't liking it. But anyway, so I started selling them. So then we started thinking about doing events like these craft fairs and stuff. So we started trying to figure out how to do that. So I joined some Central Indiana vendor fair pages, and so I started getting events like that. And I think our first event we did was in Anderson, Indiana, which is just north of us, and it was at the mall, which the mall is closed now, but it was at the mall, and it was actually a three day event. excuse me, and it was in the old Sears store that had closed. Excuse me. So it was a big space, so it had a lot of vendors, and so I decided to do that. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal, and so I did that, and I sold some stuff, and so that kind of kicked it off, and we did make our money. We paid, looking back on it now, we paid a lot of money for that event, and there wasn't a lot of traffic in that event. But I did make some good contacts. I met some vendors. There's one lady, Goody. She was at our very first event. There was a guy in between us in our booth space. She was just down from us, and so we got to know her over the years. We've done a number of events with her, and so she's a really good, really nice lady. There's a funny story with that, but I'm not going to go into it. I've already told way too many stories tonight. But so she's a really good friend of ours that we do events with, and so the thing about working these events is you get people that, especially vendors, they start telling you about other events, who to contact, which ones are good, which ones aren't good. And so you kind of go through that of, looking at what works for you and what doesn't. Me personally, I'm kind of limited because, I do have a full-time job. I only want to do Saturday shows. I don't really want to do Sunday shows. I will do them, but I don't really want to. My wife and I do go to church every Sunday, and so I value that time, and in church, spending time with God, spending it with my wife, worshiping with her, and with our church family that we've got to know quite a few of them. We do go to kind of a larger church, but we have really connected with a lot of people there. This month we're actually on the greeting. We've been on the greeting team, and we rotate every 3 months, and this is our month. So yesterday, this is Monday. So yesterday, we were there with our, greeting people at the door and handing out. Well, we didn't hand out I guess we handed out a few bulletins. They kind of stopped that with the COVID, but we did have a few things to pass out. But it's really nice to see familiar faces and do all that. But anyway, so I don't like doing events on Sunday. And like I said, I've done events on Sunday. I just don't go looking for events on Sunday. And most of them are on Saturday. But I also don't have a vehicle like a van or a SUV or a truck to where I can haul a ton of stuff. So I'm limited to what I can fit in a car. And so I try to find indoor events. I don't mind outdoor events. I definitely prefer an indoor event, because I do have a 10 by 10 canopy tent. If I do an outdoor event, what we would do is we can get everything in my wife's car that I need for the indoor event. So basically that would be the same as an outdoor event, except for the canopy. So we would take her car, or she would drive her car, and I would take my car, because I could put the back seat down and slide it through the trunk and close the trunk. And so I would basically take in my car just to haul the canopy. So anytime we did an outdoor event, we had to take 2 vehicles. And my wife at the time, she works out of a salon, and her business wasn't really that successful at that point, and she was building it. And so she a lot of times didn't have events on, or didn't have services on Saturday. So she would always go with me, especially on these events. And it weren't that many I did. So, we talked about getting a truck or a van or something, and just financially, it didn't make sense for us at this time. And so I've done some outdoor events, but we've always worked it out. I have an aunt that has let me use her pickup, and so, and then I have a nephew that has a pickup, and so I think he helped me with the one time, and so we work around it. So I don't, and then we don't like to go too far out. We did one event in Ohio, and it was about 2.5 hours away. It was south of Dayton, and it was on a Saturday, so we went down the night before, and it was in a small town, and they were having them once a month for the whole summer, and it was a street fair, arts and crafts fair, art fair, basically what it was called, an art fair. So that's why I was thinking I should do it, because it's an art fair, and it's really for people that are looking, that go to those will want art, and it really wasn't an art fair. It was, I don't even know if there was any other artists there. They did have kind of an art contest of painting in the street or something, but there might have been one other booth, but it was in the street. So we had to take 2 vehicles, because as a tent, we needed a tent. So we went up the night before and spent the night in a hotel. So we had the expense of the hotel. So we drive down the next morning, then we, of course, we had to go out and eat, which we didn't spend a ton of money on food, but we went out and ate. So we go drive down there in the morning, because we didn't stay in town, because this is a real small town. And so we might have stayed in Dayton, or was it? I don't know, somewhere. So we drove down in the morning, we set up, got going. There was like hardly anybody there. And I think it was $60 for the fee to be there. And I think I made $65. So we definitely didn't make any money on this trip, because we spent money on a hotel, and we barely made our booth rent back. And so we decided not to do that. And of course, right as we're tearing down, I think we had just got all the painting stuff in the car, and we needed to tear down the canopy, and it started raining, and it poured by the time we got it into the trunk. So you're like soaking wet. It was a hot day, because it was in June, I think it was. It was a hot day all day, and then it just poured on us right at the end. So then we can't drive back together, because we're in 2 different vehicles. So we have to drive 2.5 hours, and we were exhausted, and so we decided not to do that event ever again. But you learn these things, and you try. I've done some events where I think are going to be huge events, and we really wanted to do them. We get in, and it's a flop. You either lose money, or you just barely make your money back. And then there's events where you're thinking, $30 for the event. And I remember we did one, and it was actually in a church, and I definitely don't mind doing ones in churches, but it was, I went by the church, and it was more like a metal prefab building, and it did have a steeple on it, but it just looked, I was like, oh, this is not going to be good. And then, I sold quite a bit of stuff that day. So you never know. I've only done one that was actually a free event. It didn't cost anything for the space, and I made my booth rent back nothing. Didn't make a dime on that whole show. So, and it was an outdoor event, so we had to take 2 vehicles down. Fortunately, it was only like 20 minute drive from our house. So we tried to stay within an hour and a half from our area, which we do have a pretty good area in this area. There's a lot of events. I have one in about 2 weeks from now on a Saturday in actually the town where I work at. And so it's kind of like home turf. And so I've done this event for this person before a couple of years ago. And so we're going to do it again. And so that's what I'm doing a lot of these paintings for. But over the years, I've sold a lot of paintings. I've sold some online, not a whole lot. done some commission pieces. I've met a lot of great friends, great people. I've always gotten tons of compliments from everybody, and it's greatly appreciated. I've had other fluid acrylic painters at other events. We've had the same, there'd been another booth that had these, and I always go over and compliment their work. They always come over and compliment my work, and I never have a problem with another person selling the stuff, the same stuff, because it is all different. And I encourage everybody that talks to me, especially the people that talk about, oh, I've been wanting to do this, and I encourage them to do it. And I warn them that it is highly addictive, so be careful. But I do encourage them a lot. I remember I was doing an event, and this lady came into my tent. It was a 4-day event. It was late because it was like it was like from 9 to 9 on a Friday and a Saturday, and I can't remember what day it was, but I remember this lady came into my tent, and she was just enamored by it, and she basically got a little notebook, and she asked me. I probably talked to her for half an hour, just answering questions, and she wrote down everything I told her. And she asked so many great questions, and I told her everything. A lot of my wife's like, don't tell them how you do that, and I'm like, why not? I mean, they can go on YouTube and find it. That's how I found it. So I always tell people how I do things. I point out the flaws I make. I mean, I probably shouldn't do that, but anyway, so I talked to everybody, and this lady was like, she's going to do one. And so I was like, great, take my card. It has my email address on it. Send me pictures. I'm always telling them, send me pictures, tag me on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Just, I want to see your work. And so and this was a year later, the same event. I'm in the exact same spot that I was the year before. It's a big event in this town. And it's been going on for 30, 40 years or more. And so it's an established event, which it got canceled last year because of COVID. And it has always been my biggest event of the year so far. And even though the one I did for Shipshewana up in Muncie, the 2-day event, I almost hit what I did at a 4-day event for it's called Riley Days in Greenfield. But anyway, so this lady shows up back in my booth, and I recognized her. And so we got to talking again, and I was like, oh, you got to show me all the paintings you've been doing. I want to see what your work, because she was so excited that, I mean, she was like, I just thought, oh, this lady's going to take off and do some amazing work and stuff and really get going. And so I asked her, I said, show me what you've been doing. And she's like, oh, okay. She goes, I've only done one painting. And she did show me, and it was good, I think. I don't remember now, but I was so disappointed. And I tried not to show it, but I was like, oh man, I thought you would just, and she's like, well, this happened and this happened, and life happens. And I understand that. But I was kind of disappointed because I was excited for her to get into this and really do good at it. And she didn't really do that. She did like one painting. So that's my philosophy. My wife is always like, don't tell people how to do it. They need to buy your work, and then, they don't need to do their own. I'm like, no, they need to do their own, because I tell you what, a lot of people that have done them, that come in, it's like, oh, we did this and we did that, and they usually end up buying one of my pieces anyway. And so, and that's great. But yeah, not all of them, but a good majority of them do. They go ahead and buy them, and I do hear a lot of, yeah, I've done them, but none of them are like yours, or they're not as good as yours, or whatever. Not to toot my own horn, but I have been. I think I have been blessed. God has blessed me with being able to do some pretty fantastic work here. At least I call it fantastic. But so anyway, this whole thing started. Not this whole fluid acrylic thing, but the whole thing on this video started, and I haven't even got to the story that really basically started the reason that I'm making this video. But I kind of been wanting to do this video just to kind of tell my story. I know I talk a little bit about it while I'm painting. I've had some people complain because I talk too much before I get to the painting itself, which I know that's what you want to do, but I'm thinking, it's my video, it's my channel. It does have a fast forward button on it. You can scroll to where I start painting if you don't want to listen to me ramble on. So I kind of want to just I didn't really I thought about it a little bit, but it was really when I was doing a previous video of a pour I'm going to do tonight, which I don't think I'm going to do now because it's starting to get late and I got to work tomorrow, and I probably need to go to bed. But I talked about it in this other video that I decided I was going too long on, which was only like 12 or 13 minutes, and now we're up to almost an hour. But so the thing that happened today was I got a message on Facebook, and it was somebody I didn't know, and it was on Messenger. And so they just said, hi Brad, I just love your work. And she goes, I'm an art teacher at a high school, and I would like to get your permission to show the students in the art class your work, and hopefully it will be an inspiration to them. And it just, it really touched me, because even though I know I do good work, and it's really, I think, the Hot Wheels themed paintings that have taken me maybe a little bit beyond. And it's tough for me. I'm a humble person, and it's really hard for me to say like, oh, I'm starting to get fans, because it's just really weird for me to say that. But really, I have people that are starting to follow my stuff, and some of the comments I get are very nice. Like I had one lady commented, I can't wait to see your next post. I go running through the house yelling to my husband, hey, the Hot Wheels guy put another post up, and he's like all excited. And so it's stuff like that you kind of think, well, yeah, maybe there's some people that are fans of your work. And so this kind of I don't know, it's really tough for me to talk about, because it's not me to, if I brag about myself sometimes, I'm usually just doing it jokingly, kind of almost putting myself down. It's just my type of humor. And but it's really kind of humble to just say, yeah, I'm doing a really good job, and people love my work. And because I don't feel like I'm this big fluid acrylic art star, or whatever you want to call it. I really don't feel that way, but I think I've created a niche for myself, and that's kind of what has bloomed out of this. And but so it was greatly humbling to me to have somebody come and ask to do that, to share, to help inspire young people in art. And it just blows me away that, you know, that something I'm doing out there is can be inspiring. And I was like, oh, please do it. I'm, you know, I can't remember what I said to her, but I was like, you know, please share with me how it goes, because I want to know if anything that you showed them inspires them, because that would just fill my heart if somebody could be inspired by my work. And evidently, there's some people out there that have asked me permission to do Hot Wheels paintings, and I'm like, yeah, because a lot of stuff, I don't want to say I stole from, but I never asked those people that I watch YouTube videos on how they did stuff, like the butterfly chain pole. I did one of those. I didn't ask, I think it's Olga Solby. Is that her name? I think she's the one that I watched do that, and mine did not turn out even close to how good hers was. But it did turn out all right. But I didn't ever ask her permission, and these people are asking me permission. And a lot of people are, you know, giving me the credit. And so it's kind of weird that something that I created is inspiring other people, I guess is my best way to say it. It's I enjoy these, and I love doing these, and I will have to admit I do kind of like the attention that it's bringing, even though it still makes me freak out sometimes, because I'm like, you know, ooh, what's going on? But I guess one of the stories I didn't tell, I've probably told over videos, but I'm going to include it in this one, and believe me, hopefully I'm almost done. But the whole Hot Wheels inspiration came to me. I have a friend that I work with. He's a work friend. I don't do anything with him outside of work, but I'll talk to him, and he's a nice guy. And so he had bought a painting from me before. It was a 12 by 36. It was one that I did not really want to sell. It was like it was a black background. It had fire kind of coming up. It was a Dutch pour, and it was resin, and it was just a beautiful piece. And he wanted to buy it, and I really didn't want to sell it, so I gave him a price on it, and he bought it. So he had bought one from me before. So he comes to me probably last November and says, I want you to do another painting for me. I want to buy one for my grandson for Christmas. I want you to make one for him. Said he loves Hot Wheels. I want a Hot Wheels theme, or Hot Wheels colors, like their logo. And so we were talking about it, and he wanted a black background, and he wanted red and blue. And, which they don't really have, the blues in the back, I guess, and the red, but I was thinking more red and yellow, but he was, oh, wait, you can't see that. So I was thinking, you know, the blue background on the card here, and then the red, but I was thinking red and yellow. That's really the logo. But he wanted blue and red, and I had done a painting. I'd actually done two of them, and they've actually both sold, but it was a 12 by 36, and then mine was fire and ice, what I called it, but it was red and blue. No, he wanted orange and blue. I'm sorry, not red. He wanted orange and blue, which that doesn't actually have orange on it. But anyway, those are the colors he wanted. So I had it started in one corner, and then went up, and then kind of swirled around, and then this color came up and swirled back in, almost like a yin-yang type thing in the middle. And so mine was red, the red, yellows, and oranges, and some white coming in, and then a couple colors of blue and white coming in on a black background. and then I put white kind of right in between those two where they met in the middle for like smoke or steam or whatever you want to call it. And the first one I did was on a level 3 canvas, so it was an inch thick. I resined that thing, and it was actually at that Riley Days event. I had, it's actually the highest priced painting I've sold, and he didn't even dicker about it. And there's actually another guy I work with, and he came in, him and his wife came in, and he bought it, right? And that's what he came in the booth for that day, was to buy that painting. And so I made another one, and it sold not too long ago. But he wanted that style. So as I normally do, I'm going over it in my head because I love doing commission pieces for people, but then I also hate doing commission pieces for people because I try to get as much information as I can from them, the colors and the style and how they want it. And then when I do it, I'm like, oh, they're not going to like this. So I struggle with that. So far, every one of them has loved it. And so, but it's still something that me personally, I go through. So I always go through it in my head over and over and over, how I'm going to do it. I kind of map it out. I visualize myself doing it and what I need to do and all the steps. And so while I was going through this process for this painting, a light bulb just went on because I knew he wanted it resin. And I thought, what if I put Hot Wheels on it in the resin, because I knew when the resin hardened it would hold those. And it was like, oh, that's a great idea. But then I was like doubting myself and saying, well, is that really a good idea, or will that look stupid sitting on there? You know, I don't know. So I saw him the next day at work, told him my idea, because I definitely wasn't going to put Hot Wheels on it if he didn't want them on there. I mean, it was what he wanted, not what I wanted. He loved the idea. So the next day, he brought me in 2 Hot Wheels, one orange and one blue. And they were not in packages, so they were regular, you know, they were out of the package. So I'm assuming, he didn't really tell me, but I'm assuming they were his grandson's cars. Hopefully he has a lot of cars, so he's not going to miss those 2 cars. So I did the painting. When it dried, I placed the cars in a spot, took a picture, moved them, picture. I took about 10 pictures of different spots, went to work. Where do you want them? So we filed through the photos. He picked out where he wanted them. So I deleted all the other photos so I wouldn't make the mistake. Kept the one. So then when I resined them, I put them in where he wanted them, and it turned out awesome looking. And that's when all the ideas started flowing in for all of the things I wanted to do. And I haven't done all the things that I originally have thought of, because I want to do an airplane one. I haven't done that yet. I do have a jet, I think it is. And I wanted to do one with a bullet. I haven't done that yet. Now I'm thinking maybe trying to find, instead of just putting one of my own bullets from our ammo, possibly finding the shot glass that has the bullet in it, you know, like going through the shot glass, and doing that, and doing the stream of fire and steam or smoke going into the bullet, or like the stream of the bullet. And so I've thought about that. I haven't done that yet. I've thought about doing a boat one. I haven't done that yet. So I've had some ideas that I haven't done yet. But I have done quite a few that I have wanted to do. The soccer ball one came up. And you can go to my Facebook page or Instagram. It's under Holiday Paintings, the same as the YouTube channel. 2 L's and Holiday. And you can see all these pictures of all these. But I did a soccer ball one. It was on a round canvas. I found a smaller soccer ball. It's not a full regulation size. Actually, I have the other half, and I cut it. This is the other half, but I cut it in half, which is not an easy task to do. I used an X-Acto knife. So I've got another round canvas. I'm going to do another one, but I did a green background, and then kind of a couple colors of green, a flip cup, and then I took some white paint and ran lines like a net over the green. And then when it dried, when I resined it, I set this on top of the canvas, and so it holds it right there. And so it's on a round canvas, and it turned out really well. And it was for a Christmas gift, and so I did that one. I did a frozen one for my granddaughter. I was just going to do the Elsa, and so I couldn't find just the one character, so I bought a thing that had a bunch of characters. So it had the sister, I can't remember her name, even though I've watched Frozen with my granddaughter for I don't know how many times. And then the Olaf, the little snowman. And then there was the woodsman and the elk or whatever it was. Also, but I didn't want to put all those on there. Well, I ended up putting the two sisters and then the snowman in. And it also came with some snowflake glitter or confetti, I guess it is. So I sprinkled that in. I already had a painting that I did. I tried to do a cloud pour, ring cloud pour, and it really didn't turn out real great, but it looked cool, and it was a blue with whites, and it swirled almost like a snow tornado type looking thing. So I put Elsa in the middle, like she's doing her Frozen thing, and then her sister next to her, and then I put Olaf down in the corner, and I sprinkled the snowflake confetti in the resin, so it has all that, and it holds it in there. My granddaughter, unfortunately, was not as happy about it as I imagined her being, because she could not take them off and play with them. She's now 6. She was 5 at Christmas time. And then my 2-year-old grandson at the time, now he's 3, I did a car one for him, and it's probably the worst looking one of all the car ones I've done. I'll admit it. It did not turn out the way I wanted it, but it's for him. He'll get over it. But excuse me. So he was not happy with it because he wanted to play with the car. He's only 2 years old. So we have to keep that. They have to keep that away from him, and they've got it hung up on the wall so he can't get to it. And their mom is like, they'll really appreciate it as they get older. But yeah, I understand that they're wanting to play with it, but they will appreciate it as the years go on. So those are the two. And then I did a Star Wars one, and I did a Star Trek one. I sold the Star Trek one already. The Star Wars one is not for sale. I'm keeping that for myself. I might do another one. I've got a Millennium Falcon around here somewhere. Oh, it's actually right here. So I got the Millennium Falcon right here, which I'm going to do at some point, even though that's the only one I have of those are a Hot Wheel brand. The one I did was, and again, you can go look at it on my Facebook and Instagram, but it was the X-Wing, Luke's X-Wing, Darth Vader's TIE ship, and 2 TIE fighters. The last scene of the very first movie, A New Hope, in the trenches on the Death Star, where Darth Vader and the TIE fighters are following or trying to take out Luke. And I even put some laser fire out of Darth Vader's ship going towards Luke, even though we know he doesn't get him. If you haven't seen it, sorry to spoil it for you, but so anyway, that one is not for sale. And there's only one other one of the Hot Wheels ones that am not selling at this point. I probably will sell it at some point, but I'm keeping it for right now. And it was, it's one that I just fell in love with. And it's really a simple one. It's white background. It's got just a little bit of a swipe. And it was a Dutch pour that went horribly wrong. And so I ended up swiping it and shrinking it down and getting it. And it's a real thin, not real thin, but it's just a real elegant looking piece. It's got a white car on it that has the orange flames on it. And I think it's an older 50 style car, and it just goes together. It's just elegant. I don't know what other word to say. So it is, right now it's staying in my collection. If not, always, I'll eventually sell it. Actually, the guy that started the whole Hot Wheels thing with buying this one for his grandson started it, really. And I do give him credit. He wanted to buy that one, and I wouldn't sell it to him. But if I decide to sell it, I'll probably see if he still wants it. I'm sure he probably will. So, and then I've branched off to some other things. I just did a tractor one, and I did a Dragon Ball Z one, which it's pretty much sold. The guy says he wants it. It's another guy I work with. He's a big Dragon Ball Z fan, and I just did another one. It's sitting right here, and but it's still drying before I can resin it and put the other character on it. So I've got a lot of things in the works. I got all these Hot Wheels hanging up here. I just got to find the time. I don't have a big studio. It's just an old bedroom, and part of it on that side there's a computer desk and computer and printer. So it's taking up part of the room, but I've kind of taken up about 3/4 of the room, but it's still not enough. I have 2 tables now, one where I paint, and then I have this one here where I resin now, because the resin was drying on what I set my canvases on, so it was making them unlevel. I actually lost a good pour. Oh, it was such a beautiful pour, and I lost it from it sliding off. I tried to level them each time, and evidently it just went off anyway, and I lost a really beautiful pour. And it was such a great pour that, and I had done it to put a car on it. I was trying to do a spin out, and it looked so great that I honestly was contemplating not putting a car on it and just leaving it straight as is, because it was great as it was. And you might have seen that post online in the Fluid Acrylic sites. If you're on those, I asked the question, with or without the car. I actually set the car in the paint while it was wet, took a picture of it, and a picture of the without first, and then put, and said, and of course I just set the car in randomly. I didn't put it in where I would normally probably would have put it, and everybody was like, so I got a ton of votes of yes, no, keep the car, with the car. And then there were those people that say you need to not have it needs to be more this way. There were, so it was a lot of fun. But and then unfortunately I had to post that, because the next morning, as I knew I shouldn't have. I almost thought, I was like, well, I probably shouldn't post this until it's dry, but I'm impatient, so I wanted to share it because I was really proud of it, and it turned out so well. I just want to share. And so I put it on that night, and I get up the next morning and I come in here to look at it, and just broke my heart to see that it was gone. So I had to update on that, and I don't think a lot of people saw that, because I still got comments with the car, without the car, even though I basically put on there, the debate's over, I lost it in a paint slide, and it's gone, and I'm not going to be using it. So, but with that, I think I've wasted enough time. Boy, I'm at almost an hour and 20 minutes, and I never thought I could talk that long, that consistently, and talk about this. But I will say that this is something I'm passionate about. I've gone through my life. I don't know if I've ever been this really passionate about a hobby, I guess you could say, as this. I kind of got caught up in buying sports cards for a while, football, basketball, baseball. To me, that was more of an addiction because it's kind of like, I always refer to it kind of like a gambling problem, because you're spending money on a pack of cards, gambling that it's going to have a high dollar card in there, a certain player, rookie player, an insert card, because they have different inserts. So I found myself really thinking about it all the time, and I would go to bed at night. On the job that I had, I was managing a restaurant at the time, and I was like, I got to go in and do this, but when I go out and get all the cash, the change for the register for the day, when I go to the bank, I can stop off and go to this store, and I can go down to this convenience store that sells cards, and I can go over here and I can pick up this many cards and this, and so it was really a problem, because that's all I was thinking about was when I was going to be able to buy cards. And but I did finally get out of it. I still buy cards every now and then, and every time I don't follow the players anymore like I was at the time. And this is in the early 90s and probably through into the 2000s. And so I was following all the players. I knew who was hot, who was not. And now I open the cards and I don't know who any of the players are. Because right now you can't. I mean, I know a little bit about football. I really don't know much about baseball. And that's usually what you can find now. Right now, there's a big craze and people are buying up everything. You can't even buy NBA cards or football ones are real hard to find. People are going in the stores and buying everything and then reselling it online at a marked up price. So, and the only reason I was wanting to buy some cards is because the little town I went to, or grew up in and went to high school in, 68 people in our high school, there was a couple there. They were high school sweethearts. They ended up getting married. They had a couple of kids, and their son is now playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I will say this, that I have not seen this couple since probably 1985. So I'm friends with the mom on Facebook. I don't even think the dad has a Facebook page, but so I'm friends with the mom on Facebook, but I haven't seen him in, what is that? I don't even want to count how many years ago that was. 36 years ago. I've never met their kids, most definitely, because it was only a couple of years after high school that I think I've seen them last. They were a couple of years younger than me, but like I said, you knew everybody. But it's been interesting to see her post about him when he was in high school, and they were in a little bit bigger town, but about the same small. It was still a small high school, and I think they won like 3 state championships while he was in high school. And then he was a starter for Kansas State the whole time, and then now he's drafted by he wasn't drafted. He was in the G League for 1 year with the minor league, and he was brought up to play some regular games for the Cavs, and now he's on the roster. They signed him to a deal, and he's on the roster this year. So I was wanting to get a card of his, and I had to end up buying one online because you can't find any packs. I was just wanting to buy some packs and pull one just for the thrill of pulling one of his cards, and wasn't able to do that. But anyway, but this the reason I've talked so long is I guess I wanted to share kind of my story. I don't know if anybody's wanting to even watch this thing, especially probably not spend an hour, almost an hour and a half of listening to me ramble on about my life and the stuff in my art, kind of my art arc and what I've been doing. And so, um, but I appreciate everybody that likes my stuff, that comments. I love all the comments. I try to at least like the stuff. I'm not real great at replying. I do try to reply. I wish I could reply to every one of them, or I probably could, but I try to reply to some of them, and I definitely try to like at least every comment that I get, and so if I haven't responded back to you, I'm really sorry. That's just a flaw I have, and I try to get back to most people, and excuse me, and I'm just so grateful for people that like my work and appreciate it, and I hope to keep going and inspire more people to do other work. And like I said, I can't wait to hear from this teacher, and I don't even know where she's from. She didn't say where she's from or what high school or anything like that, but I can't wait to hear from her to see if the kids even liked my stuff or were inspired by it, because I've actually taught. I did one class for about 20 girls. I was asked to do this for this group of girls from like 10 to 17-year-olds that have this community thing they do, and they invite somebody in to teach them something. And so I taught a class on how to do that. They had a great time. We went to a banquet for that group. They brought in everybody that contributed to their thing for that year, and they passed out these little pamphlets that had every student that they had or girl that they had in the program. And there was not all of them, but there was a number of them, 4, 5, 6 out of the 25 or so, that their favorite thing that they learned and was the fluid acrylic paintings from me. And so that was very exciting. I donated everything because she wanted to know how much I would charge for doing this, and I said, don't worry about the charge. I bought them all canvases. I bought all pre-mixed paints just so because I didn't have a ton of time with them. I only had like I can't remember how much time I had, so I had like 5 or 6 tables of 5 girls each, and it was about 4 tables. I don't know, 5 girls each, and so I had to go from table to table. So I didn't have a lot of time. I wanted to film each one of them doing their own pour, and I couldn't do that because they were just all doing it at the same time. But I had a great time, and they had a great time. And then I was asked to do a birthday party for about a dozen 10-year-old girls, and so I was able to do that, and they had a great time. I had a great time. So to me to be able to teach and show people and them appreciate it, and it just really is unbelievable to me that I'm able to do this. And I just started because the fluid acrylic, at least I just started because I just wanted to do it, and I was doing it for myself, nobody else. I just enjoyed doing it, and now it's kind of become a part of me, and it's I don't know, it's hard to explain. So but I want to thank everybody that could possibly be a fan. I hate calling them that, but people that enjoy my work and like to see it. And I'm just so grateful for all of you out there that you'll never know. And so it warms my heart to read all these comments and see all the, I hate to say I like the likes, but it is warming to know that there's people out there that like your stuff. And so with that, I just want to say thank you. And I love you all. It's hard for me to say that, but you know, I love all y'all out there, and I'm gonna keep going if you'll keep liking. So that's my story. Thanks for watching, and hour and a half. Ugh. Thanks for those that stuck with it and listened to the whole thing. You get a gold star, because I probably won't ever watch this again. So if somebody else does, hey, there you go. So, oh, there goes my power. It's going. So I gotta go. And I gotta go to bed. It's way past my bedtime. So, and I'm not even gonna get any pouring in tonight. So it's too late to pour now. So I'll start again tomorrow. So take care.